Once upon a time in the peaceful neighborhood of Maple Grove in the city of Elmwood, there lived two married couples. The area was quiet, far from the hustle and bustle of downtown. This couple lived in small rented apartments with their doors directly facing each other. Every morning, as the sun began to rise, the two wives, Sarah and Emily, would open their doors and greet each other with warm smiles. Their homes were so close that they didn't even have to step outside to see one another. Sarah and Emily were the best of friends. Their friendship had bloomed long before they got married, and now they found themselves living as neighbors. It seemed like destiny had a hand in bringing them together. Emily gave birth first to a beautiful baby girl, bringing joy to her home. The little one was cherished by both parents and became the center of their world. As the years went by, Emily welcomed 3 more children into their family, each one bringing more happiness and laughter. Their days were filled with the sounds of little giggles and the chaos of a caring, growing family. Meanwhile, Sarah was filled with a mix of joy and longing. She was happy for her friend, but couldn't help but feel a little sadness. While Emily was blessed with children, Sarah remained childless. She had always dreamed of being a mother, but so far, that dream hadn't come true. The happiness in Emily's life was a reminder of what Sarah deeply desired. As time passed, the close friendship between Sarah and Emily began to change. The two had once spent hours together, sharing stories and dreams. Now, Emily was often preoccupied, juggling the demands of motherhood and managing a growing household. She had little time to spend with her friend, and Sarah felt the distance between them. As time went on, Sarah found herself struggling with feelings of jealousy. It was hard for her to watch Emily's life filled with children and joy while she remained childless. Each time she heard the laughter of Emily's children from across the way, it deepened the ache in her heart. At first, Sarah tried to push her feelings aside. She knew she should be happy for Emily, but the bitterness inside her grew every day. Emily, on the other hand, began to sense the change in their friendship. She noticed how Sarah no longer dropped by like she used to, and whenever they saw each other, there was an uncomfortable silence between them. Emily thought about it one afternoon as she rocked her youngest child to sleep. "It's like Sarah is keeping her distance from me," she wondered to herself. One day, as Sarah was sweeping the front of her apartment, she noticed Emily's husband, John, walking down the path with a beautiful white bundle in his arms. Curious, she watched as he approached Emily's door and handed it to her, who received it with joy. Sarah's heart sank as she saw the joy on her friend's face as she opened the gift to reveal a gorgeous wrap, the vibrant color, the kind that Emily had always admired. Sarah was filled with jealousy. Why couldn't her husband do something like that for her? That evening, when John returned home from his workshop, Sarah couldn't hold back her feelings any longer. As he walked in, she confronted him, her voice tingling with frustration. "Why can't you buy me gifts like John buys for Emily? Look at how he makes her happy," she said, her side looking away from a long day of work. "Why are you disturbing me, Sarah?" "You know I'm doing my best," he replied, his voice flat. "And besides, you didn't give me any children. She expects me to buy gifts like John does for Emily." Sarah felt her cheeks flush with anger and hurt. "That's not fair, John. Just because we don't have children doesn't mean I don't deserve to be treated with love." "Listen, Sarah," John said, shaking his head. "People are calling him Papa John now, forgetting his name. But what do they call me? They call me John, the man with no children. Do you think I want to hear that? I don't need any more reminders of what we don't have. So please, let me be and go make my food." Sarah sat, heartache as his words hit. It was painful to hear him refer to their situation so bluntly. She felt alone and frustrated, and now his words made her feel even smaller. One day, while Emily was washing her clothes, the sun shone brightly in the sky, and she felt a sense of satisfaction as she scrubbed away the dirt. After washing the laundry, she spread the clothes outside, enjoying the fresh air with the clothes fluttering in the breeze. She decided to take her children to the clinic for their vaccinations. However, as she arrived at the clinic, dark clouds began to gather overhead. Emily hurried to take care of her children, hoping the rain would hold off until she returned home. Unfortunately, by the time she left the clinic, the sky had opened up and heavy rain poured down. Emily rushed home, but it was too late. The rain had soaked her children's and her husband's clothes that she had hung outside. Feeling frustrated and overwhelmed, Emily remembered that she had asked Sarah to help her remove the clothes if it started to rain. Sarah was supposed to be there for me, she thought. When she finally got home and saw the wet clothes still hanging outside, her anger boiled over. Without thinking twice, Emily marched over to Sarah's apartment. She knocked fiercely on the door, and when Sarah opened it, her expression was a mix of surprise and confusion. "I asked you to help me. I told you to take in the clothes if it started to rain, but you didn't do anything," Emily accused, her arms crossed, a defensive look on her face. "Is it me who told you to spread your clothes outside? You should have known better than to leave them out in the open. It's not my fault it rained." Emily felt a wash of hurt as Sarah dismissed her concerns entirely. "You used to be my friend, Sarah. I thought you would help me when I needed it," Emily said, her voice rising. But Sarah's response was cold. "Friend, I don't see how I am responsible for your decisions. If you wanted to keep your clothes safe, you should have thought ahead," she replied sharply. In that moment, a heavy silence hung between them. Sarah's heart sank as she realized the depth of the change in the relationship. It was clear that Emily no longer cared for her the way she used to. The bond that had once connected them felt frayed and broken. Years passed, and the silence between Sarah and Emily deepened. They both continued to keep their distance, each mourning the loss and pride, despite the lows in their friendship. Their husbands exchanged small talks whenever they crossed paths, but their conversations were always superficial, lacking the warmth and depth that true friendship brings. Emily had 5 children now, each one a bundle of joy. As they grew, they filled the compound with laughter, their voices rising and falling as they played games around and around. They loved playing tag, hide and seek, and all sorts of games that kept them active and entertained. The sight of them playing brought a smile to Emily's face, even on the most tiring days. She shared her laughter, a sound that echoed through her home and reminded her of the joys of motherhood. Meanwhile, Sarah watched from her apartment, torn between happiness for Emily and the familiar ache of jealousy that had lingered over the years. The sight of the children playing brought back memories of the life she had once dreamed of, a life full of her own children. It was bittersweet to witness the joy that Emily experienced every day. The children often gathered outside, making a joyful noise as they played in the compound. They would chase each other, their laughs mingling with the sound of their tiny feet tapping against the ground. Sarah could hear the laughter from her door, and it served as a constant reminder of what she had missed out on. Despite the growing friendship as neighbors, the silence between the two remained. Emily had always been a diligent mother, trying her best to instill good habits in her children. One of her frequent reminders was to keep their slippers inside at night. "Remember to bring your slippers inside before it gets dark," she would tell them. "I don't want to find them outside in the morning, as something bad might happen to them." Her children, however, were young and often distracted by their play. Some nights, despite Emily's warning, they would forget their slippers outside. It became a common occurrence. Emily would find them the next morning. Sometimes 1 or 2 were missing altogether. One bright morning, as she stepped out to start her daily chores, Emily noticed that 2 pairs of slippers were lying outside. Her heart sank, knowing it was yet another instance of her children disregarding her instructions. "Oh, not again," she exclaimed, shaking her head in frustration. When the children came down for breakfast, Emily called them over. "Come here, all of you," she said, arms crossed. The children shuffled all together, knowing they were about to get scolded. "Didn't I tell you to bring your slippers inside every night?" Emily asked, looking each child in the eye. What if someone takes them or they get ruined? You need to start listening to me. Her eldest son, trying to defend himself, piped up. But Mama, we were just playing. We forgot. Emily sighed, her frustration boiling over. Playing is not an excuse. I warned you countless times, and it's important that you listen to me. I don't want to keep having this conversation. You're old enough to remember your things. The children looked down at their feet, feeling guilty. We're sorry, Mama, they murmured in unison, knowing they had let her down. Emily softened slightly, recognizing the sincerity in their voices. I know you're just kids, but I need you to try harder. If you forget your slippers again, there will be consequences. Now, go get ready for the day, and remember to keep your things safe. Sarah sat in a quiet corner of her favorite restaurant, a bottle of drink in her hands, feeling the weight of her worries settle heavy on her shoulders. She was meeting her close friend Monica, who had always been a supportive listener. As they chatted about their lives, Sarah couldn't help but pour out her feelings of frustration and despair. I'm almost 40, Monica, Sarah said, her voice tinged with sadness. I thought by now I would have children of my own. I see Emily with 5 kids, and it just hurts. What's wrong with me? Monica, who was also 40 and in a similar situation, nodded empathetically. I understand how you feel, Sarah. I've been through that too, but you shouldn't lose hope. There are always ways to address this. What do you mean? Sarah asked, intrigued yet skeptical. Monica leaned in closer, her voice low, as if she were sharing a secret. I know a fertility specialist that I've heard great things about. He helps many women in our community who struggle to conceive. He can find the source of barrenness and give you treatment to help with it. It works for others. It could work for you too. Sarah's interest piqued. A fertility specialist? Do you really think that could help? I've tried so many doctors and treatments, and nothing has worked so far. I know it sounds unconventional, but sometimes we need to explore other options. The fertility specialist is very respected, and many women have come back with good news after visiting him. If you're open to it, I can go with you, Monica offered. Sarah considered this for a moment. The idea felt strange, but she was desperate for a solution. After years of feeling broken and alone, she was willing to try anything that might help her become a mother. All right, she said, a mix of hope and anxiety mingling within her. Where can we go? Monica smiled, sensing Sarah's willingness to embrace the idea. Let's plan for this weekend. I will arrange everything. You'll see, it might be just what you need. The weekend arrived, and Sarah felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety as she and Monica made their way to the fertility specialist clinic. The air was thick with anticipation as they approached the modern structure surrounded by lush trees. Sarah's heart raced as they entered, the clean, bright lights flickering from the ceiling, casting shadows on the walls adorned with various certificates and symbols. The fertility specialist, a middle-aged man with a gentle demeanor, welcomed them with a nod. After exchanging pleasantries, he motioned for Sarah to sit before him. She felt a sense of reverence in his presence, but also a growing apprehension about what his methods might reveal. Tell me why you are here, he said, his voice calm yet commanding. Sarah took a deep breath and shared her story, her longing for children, her years of disappointment, and the jealousy she had felt towards Emily and her family. The fertility specialist listened intently, his expression one of understanding. After a long pause, he leaned closer. Your barrenness, he said, is not just a matter of medical conditions. It stems from a combination of factors, including stress and possibly some underlying health issues that we haven't identified yet. Sarah's heart sank as she awaited his next words. We will need to conduct some tests to better understand your situation. I can offer you a treatment plan that may improve your chances of conceiving. It will involve medication, possibly some lifestyle changes and regular monitoring. Sarah, stunned, tried to process his recommendation. How could I not have known this before? She wondered aloud. The fertility specialist continued, unfazed by her reaction. Many couples come to me after years of unsuccessful attempts. It's not uncommon for the underlying issues to go unnoticed. What's important is that we're addressing it now. He reached behind him and produced a pamphlet that outlined the treatment plan. This will give you a detailed explanation of what to expect. If you have any questions, I'm here to help. Sarah felt a mix of relief and apprehension as she took the pamphlet. It was a lot to take in, but she was willing to try anything that might help her achieve her dream of becoming a mother. "Thank you," she said, her voice a mix of gratitude and determination. "I'm ready to start this journey." As she left the clinic with Monica, Sarah felt a renewed sense of hope. The path she had chosen was daunting, but she was no longer alone in her struggle. The support of her friend and the guidance of the fertility specialist gave her the strength to face the challenges ahead. The next morning, Emily woke up early as usual, the bright sunlight filtering through the curtains. She went about her routine, waking her children, preparing breakfast, and getting ready for the day. Her children, full of energy, were their usual playful selves, laughing and shouting as they ate. There was no sign that anything unusual had occurred the night before. As the days turned into weeks, Emily's household remained the same, lively and filled with the sound of her children running around, playing games, and making noise in the compound. Nothing seemed amiss. Sarah, who had been anxiously watching from her apartment, grew more and more confused with each passing day. She had expected anything, to happen to Emily and her children after starting the treatment, but they were as healthy and noisy as ever. Sarah's frustration began to build. The children's laughter, which once made her jealous, now filled her with a deep sense of failure. Each morning as they ran past her window, she would look out, hoping to see some sign that the treatment was working. But every day was the same. Children were fine, and Emily seemed happier than ever. Despite her growing frustration, Sarah remained determined to follow through with the fertility specialist's instructions. Each night, she continued taking her medication, convinced that if she persisted, the treatment would eventually work. But as days turned into weeks, her hope dwindled, leaving her with an emptiness that echoed within her. One day, as Emily's children were preparing for playtime, they began to complain to their mother about a strange smell from their shoes. "Mama, our shoes smell weird," one of the children said, wrinkling his nose. "We've tried washing them, but the smell won't go away." Emily, puzzled, hadn't noticed anything unusual, but the concerned look on her child's face made her take a closer inspection. She picked up one of the shoes and took a deep sniff, immediately recoiling as a strange, pungent odor wafted from it. It was unlike anything she had encountered, a mixture of acrid, sour, and smelly. "What in the world?" Emily murmured, her suspicions starting to rise. She glanced at her children, who were still staring at the smell. "I will wash them again," she said, determined to get to the bottom of this. After several unsuccessful attempts to clean the shoes, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. As she pondered the source of the smell, a troubling thought crossed her mind. Could Sarah be behind this? That night, Emily devised a plan. She would stay up late and keep an eye on Sarah's apartment, waiting to see if her neighbor would come out to do something to their shoes again. As darkness fell, she settled into a spot where she knew that whatever Sarah was doing needed to be stopped, and she was determined to catch her in the act. The quiet of the night set in, but the tension in the air was palpable as Sarah braced herself for what she might discover. That night, Sarah stepped out of her apartment with a small green bottle in hand. She felt a grim desperation with each step, convinced that this might be her last chance to make the treatment work. Sarah moved swiftly toward the spot where Emily's children had left their shoes, her mind focused on the task. She crouched down, unscrewing the cap of the bottle, preparing to pour the medication over the shoes once again. But as she leaned over, a bright flash of light blinded her momentarily. Startled, she jumped back, and the bottle nearly slipped from her hands. It was Emily, standing a few feet away, her phone raised with the flashlight on. Emily had been watching Sarah closely, and now, at the right moment, she had snapped several pictures of her neighbor in the act. "What are you doing, Sarah?" Emily shouted, her voice cutting through the quiet of the night. "What is this? What have you been doing to my children's shoes?" Sarah froze, her eyes wide with shock. Emily stormed over and grabbed her by the arm, pulling her away from the shoes. "You are a witch, Sarah!" Emily screamed, waking everyone in the compound. Emily continued shouting, "You've been trying to curse my family because you are jealous. You can't stand that I have children and you don't, so you have been trying to harm them with this." The crowd murmured in agreement, their judgment clear. Sarah stood there, trapped in the web of accusation and disbelief. Her mind was racing. She had wanted a solution so badly, but now everything had spiraled out of control. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe and check out the next video.